So here's what happened today in college sports. St. Joe's University head coach Billy Lang resigned. Today's September 10th, and he resigned to take an NBA job at the New York Knicks. Now, for some, that's somebody's dream job. It's a great opportunity. But Billy was already in the NBA as an assistant for many years. And if you know college athletics, you also know there's more to this story. Because here's the truth. The idea of raising the kind of money needed to comply with the NCAA House settlement, paying these athletes directly, managing capped rosters, and leaning on donor checks every single year. Guys, that's got to be overwhelming for mid-major schools. And St. Joe's isn't a small-time program. They're in the Atlantic 10. That is an unbelievable, respectable league at a mid-major conference. And the history of St. Joe's basketball runs deep in the city of Philadelphia. Yet, their head coach just decided, I'd rather go to the NBA and deal with an 82 game schedule and on the road for half of my year than dealing with the reality I just described. That should just tell you everything you need to know about what's coming. And this isn't about St. Joe's. It's about every school in the NCAA outside of the Power Four schools. Because the House settlement, it now forces non-Power Four schools to make this decision every single year. Do we opt in? Do we opt out? Can we afford to do this next year? And if you're a parent or a high school athlete watching this, here's what you need to know. These year-to-year decisions, they're going to reshape recruiting timelines. Commitments will happen later. High school seniors will be playing into their senior year without making a Division I commitment yet. Walk-ons will disappear one year and then magically return the next. And it won't just affect Division I schools. It will trickle down all the way to Divisions II and III. And high school athletes waiting for their shot will be affected. That's what this video is about today. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why your families need a flexible plan for recruiting in every sport and at every level. But before we dive in, I want to give you something. Guys, grab my college recruiting jumpstart pack. It's free. I link it in the description below. It includes my 3 most downloaded guides, the action steps, the questions to ask. It's a framework to start building your plan today. Don't wait. Download it. It's free. And while you're watching, you can print it out and act on it when we're done. All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, I want to explain what St. Joe's news signals about mid-major programs under the settlement. Second, I'm going to walk you through how the House settlement actually works, the opt-in, the opt-out rules, and the deadlines that matter. Third, I'll give you real examples of what mid-majors and small schools are already doing. Fourth, we'll zoom in on basketball specifically because non-Power 4 hoops programs are under unique pressure. Fifth, we'll look at how all of this trickles down to Divisions 2 and 3 and then the high school athletes. Then we'll cover the biggest mistakes families are going to make and the tips to stay ahead. And finally, I'll tie this into what you really need to create a plan. So please stick around to the end. All right, let's start with the basics. When the House settlement hit, the Power 4 schools had no choices but to opt in. With billion-dollar TV deals and boosters networks that'll never stop, they were locked in. Hypothetically, if Alabama, Ohio State, or Texas had said, we're out, that would have been competitive suicide. Their athletes, they expect to be paid, and their boosters demand it. So for them, obviously it wasn't a decision. It was an obligation. But for mid-majors and low Division I schools, that's a completely different story. Some opted in this year, not because they could afford it long term, but because they were afraid to look weak. They raised student fees, they cut jobs, and they squeezed money out of donors. They eliminated programs. And they told recruits, hey, look, we're in the game too. But here's the real question. Do they do it again? Can they do it again? And here's where it gets really messy. There's a phrase called donor fatigue, and it's real, and it's here. Several of my good friends who work at the Division I level, they have no idea how they're going to raise this money in year two. Boosters cut big checks this past year. But can you really expect them to do that every year? Most athletic directors already know the answer, and it's no. And campuses, they've already made some big sacrifices to get to this point. At some schools, student fees went up, athletic department staffs were cut, and non-revenue sports were downsized. Academic budgets were squeezed, and I'll tell you now, the decisions that were made on college campuses were not very popular. So what's going to happen next year? Do they raise the fees again? Can they cut more jobs? Eliminate more services for regular students just to keep paying football and basketball players? Or do they step back and say, we can't do this again, and we're opting out? That's the annual decision every non-Power 4 program now has to face. Most of these athletic departments who opt in lose money every single year. The balance sheet might zero out at the end, but the reality is these schools are spreading themselves extremely thin. Here's what families need to understand. The Power 4 schools, like the ACC, the Big 10, Big 12, Southeast Conference, guys, they're locked in. They have no choice. But the non-Power 4 schools, they can opt in and out every single year. And here are the deadlines. For this year, schools had to June 30th of 2025 to declare. Starting next year, the deadline moves to March 1st. That means spring, March 1st, 2026. Every mid-major and low-major school will have to announce if they're going to opt in or opt out for the following year. And families need to circle that date. Because if your child is being recruited by a non-Power 4 program, their opportunity could change based on the boardroom decisions that are made at each school. So let me give you a few examples. A school like Nebraska Omaha opted in. Their athletic director said, we need to jog before we sprint. Houston Christian opted out. It was too expensive and the roster caps were too tight. Siena College has said it does not intend to opt in right now. And the Ivy Leagues, they're out. They're sticking to their academic first mission. MAC schools, they've said $20 million a year is simply way too much. Without massive media deals, they can't sustain it. And now you add St. Joe's. Their coach is leaving for the NBA, and that's not random timing. It's part of the same story. Now, nowhere is this clearer than in basketball. In the Power 4, nothing changes. I mean, they'll pay their players, they'll cap their rosters, and they'll keep recruiting the elite players. But in the A10, the Missouri Valley, the Horizon League, the Big South, it's a totally different world. Those basketball rosters are smaller. They'll have 12 scholarships, maybe one or two preferred walk-ons. Opt in, and those caps are strict. A late blooming senior who might normally walk on is out of luck. You opt out, and the door reopens. Rosters expand to 15 or 16, walk-ons return, and coaches can take more chances. That's why families have to ask, hey coach, will your school opt in or out this March? If you opt out, what's your roster plan? How are you sustaining this for the next 4 years? Because here's the truth. Basketball recruiting boards are going to shift dramatically every spring. Expect late offers. Expect fall recruiting to stretch probably into the winter. And expect more uncertainty than ever. This past summer at the major AAU events that I attended, there were less and less Division I schools out recruiting than I've ever seen in 30 years. Division I programs are operating with little to no idea of what the following year will look like. Now let's talk about the ripple effect. When Division I schools that we've just talked about are shifting in and out of the House settlement every March, this won't just be a Division I problem. It impacts everyone. Divisions 2, 3, and especially high school athletes. Here's why families need to make a plan more than ever before. In Division 2, when the mid-majors opt out, there'll be more walk-on spots that open at the Division I level. That puts kids who might have gone Division 2 back up at Division I. But those same schools who opt back in now will cut rosters again. And those athletes, they'll drop down again into Division II. And that squeezes high school seniors out of opportunities. So if you're targeting a Division II school, your list cannot be shallow. You need depth, 10, 15, even 20 real options. And at Division III, we all know Division III doesn't give athletic scholarships, but they've always had stability. Now that stability is being disrupted. More transfers will drop down from Division I, and more seniors who lose their Division I opportunity in March will scramble, and those Division III rosters in April, May, and June will be affected. That means if you're aiming for a Division III school, you can't just have a top 3. You need a broad list across regions and conferences. And you need to be in communication with those coaches early and often. And for high school athletes and every other sport, those recruiting calendars are shifting. Seniors will be committing later in December, January, and even in April. Walk-on opportunities will appear one year and vanish the next. And the transfer portal is taking roster spots away from high school kids, especially in non-revenue sports. So what's the solution? Families need a plan. Your school list has to be deeper than ever before. 10 schools is probably not going to be enough, but a list of 20 or 30 across multiple levels, especially in the beginning of your process, might have to be the solution. Your outreach has to start sooner. Waiting until junior year or senior year is too late. Your communication has to be repeated, and one email won't cut it. Coaches need to see consistency and growth over time. And you need options at every level. If you think you're a Division I, 2, or 3 student athlete, the more doors you open, the less risk you carry if one closes. And here's the bottom line. The recruiting landscape is really unstable. I know we've talked about this a million times in other videos, but that just means now more than ever, your strategy has to be on point. The families who build depth, who communicate early and often, who keep every pathway open, those are the families that will survive this new era. If you're a parent of a high school senior, this is exactly why I'm talking to you right now. And this is why I built the senior year recruiting sprint. The sprint is a 90-day action plan designed for chaos just like this. Inside, I'll walk your family step by step through how to build a realistic target list, how to write emails that coaches actually respond to, how to ask the right questions so you don't get blindsided, and how to execute a focused recruiting sprint during the most critical months of your senior year. While schools are figuring out budgets, your athlete can't afford to sit back. Families who act now will have options. Families who wait, they'll be scrambling in April. The link is in the description below. Check it out today. Hit the play button and find out what's in the sprint. Now, let me give you a scenario. Year 1, a mid-major opts in, raises fees, pays athletes, cuts staff, and then the rosters are capped. Year 2, donor fatigue sets in. Students revolt over fees and they opt out. Rosters get expanded and walk-ons suddenly return. Year 3, conference pressure pushes them back in. Now there's more cuts, more chaos. Now imagine you're a recruit in that system. Promises change year to year. Coaches admit, we don't know what next March will bring. Transfers skyrocket and families are left guessing. And here are the biggest mistakes families are making. And mistake one is always believing today's model will hold up for 4 years. And that's just not true. Ask direct opt-in and out plans. Mistake two, chasing only the money. Choosing academic and athletic fit is always primary. The money may vanish quickly. And mistake three, thinking all Division I is the same. And it's not. It's two worlds now. It's the Power Four that are locked in and the non-Power Four that are year to year. Mistake four, ignoring non-revenue sports. Olympic sports will feel the cuts. They'll come first, so plan accordingly. So let's recap. The House settlement was supposed to bring clarity. Instead, as we are finding out, it's reshaping recruiting into complete chaos. Power Four schools, they're locked in. Mid-majors, low Division Is, they reassess every year. And then the deadlines, March 1st, every year after 2026. The non-Power Four basketball programs, they're a pressure cooker right now. Divisions 2 and 3 and high school athletes, they're all feeling this ripple effect. And the bottom line, recruiting is no longer stable. Families who prepare will survive and thrive, and families who don't will wind up scrambling. I'm going to leave you with this. Here's where the senior year recruiting sprint comes in. I know I've talked about it before, but you just can't control whether a school opts in or opts out. You can't control whether donors keep writing checks, but you can control your plan. And inside the sprint, you'll learn how to build your target list, email coaches, and ask the right questions. And stay ready no matter what happens in March. The link is in the description below. Join today. And if you're not ready for the full sprint, grab the College Recruiting Jumpstart Pack. It's free. It's also linked below. 3 guides, totally free. You can start building momentum today. Whichever path you choose, just take action today. In this environment, waiting isn't safe. It's too risky. And the athletes who act now will be the ones who land roster spots next year. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And if you need any help, please don't hesitate to contact me, drop a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.